So we're back, and while I was off camera I removed the beaker, and you can see that we've now got quite a few kind of white crystals in the bottom. The slower it cools, the nicer the crystals. You get longer, more kind of needly crystals. This is going to be mostly a powder anyway, so that's probably ready to filter. So I'm going to go and get the cold acetone out of the ice machine. It's important if you do this to remember to actually remove the acetone, remove the bottle from the ice machine, not leave it there where it's going to get covered. And you've done a vacuum filtration before, so you know that you turn the vacuum on, adjust your little paper so it's covering, and then we always wet it with just a few drops of the solvent. That'll create a tight seal. And then I want to pour this all at once, kind of authoritatively, right? I don't want to leave a bunch of solids sticking in the bottom. I'm going to pour it all at once. And then I'm just going to use a squirt or two of the cold acetone to wash it and hopefully get the rest of that color out of there. Two or three little pipette squirts of acetone should get the job done. And also make sure that I don't lose any of the crystals in the flask. And then finally I'm just going to do a little wash of the whole thing. More pipettefuls. Probably all told used 6 pipettefuls, and each pipette's maybe a milliliter total. Looks like I got a nice white solid now. You'll see I'm getting a little bit more crystals down there, so my yield's not going to be outstanding, but for this lab it's much more important to get actual clean product than a high yield. If I really wanted to maximize my yield, I would let that evaporate some more, and then I would do another filtration, get what we call a second crop. But that's not really necessary. I've got plenty. The pipette bulb is actually personal equipment. It came out of the basket here from the person who was in this lab on in the spring semester, which was Wara at Avite. So I'll clean that later. I'm just going to let the air run through there a little bit to let it air dry, just briefly. And then we're going to transfer that into a clean, dry 10 milliliter beaker. And stick it in the desiccator overnight to get rid of any extra water. So that one looks pretty clean. And then to make sure that doesn't tip over, I'm going to nest it inside a 50 milliliter beaker. So there's definitely no way that's falling over. And I would have put a lot number on this. I would have put a lot number on the crude material with my initials, DCL, and my notebook number. I'm on notebook number 10. And then I would put the page number. You'll put whatever page number you're on in your notebook, which would probably be page 1 or page 2. And then the first compound, the crude material, would be 2A, and then if you're still on page 2, this purified material would become 2B. There's a description in the lab manual on how to assign lot numbers. The best spatula for transferring that is going to be this type, kind of the thin blade. And I want one that's a little less bent. So that's probably ready. You always want to break the vacuum first before you turn it off. So I'm going to gently pull this off of here, let some air into the flask, and then turn off the vacuum. That flat tubing can go back there. And then I'm going to pull out my filter. And it's okay to transfer the filter paper in there as well, because I can pluck the filter paper out tomorrow once this is nice and dry. So I'm just going to scrape that nice white powdery solid into the beaker. Nice pure Trimyristin. So we can't take an infrared spectrum or a melting point yet because it's still wet. Today's a very humid day. There's definitely some water in there, and acetone absorbs water anyway, so there's always a little bit of water in your acetone. So that's sitting there. I would normally label it. And you can see that there's definitely more solid in there, which I could kind of try to extract if I really needed it. But I don't. I've got plenty. So this is going to go into the organic waste. And while I was off camera, I went and got a solid waste and wrote down that I'd put nutmeg powder in it. So I'm going to, well, there's already acetone is already listed there, but I'm also going to say Trimyristin, because there's a little bit of Trimyristin that's dissolved in that solid into the organic waste container. Clamp can go back, and we just clean up our flasks. And get a label. You would put a lot number in it. I'm going to put Trimyristin, since I'm not actually writing this down in my lab notebook. And tomorrow I will use tweezers to pull away the filter paper, and I'll weigh this, transfer it to a vial, so we can get a purified yield and a % recovery, see how much we got back from our crude material. So we'll stick that in this desiccator if I can get the lid off. So it'll be nice and dry tomorrow. So that's it for the Trimyristin lab.